Okay, it's a late show for me, but I'm in a quirky mood. I'm going to talk about Tennessee visiting Oklahoma. Can't get it up. Visiting Oklahoma this Saturday, 7:30 on ABC. It's a big game. It's a weird return for Josh Heupel. Yes, he's returning to the place he won a national championship with back in what year 2000, something like that, only to be let go when he's coaching there. He's coming back. I'm going to talk about that and more in just a second. Welcome to the channel. Even though I'm covered in Clemson garb, it's quite evident I'll talk about other football teams as well because I just love college football. If that's your sort of thing, you like college football, you like talking about it, you like arguing about it, you like getting all worked up over it, well, here's your channel. I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. So let's talk about Tennessee and Oklahoma. So when you look at this game, you see number 6 Tennessee and you see number 15 Oklahoma. Let's go ahead and get some of that, just some of the basics out of the way. Right now, I'm on ESPN. According to ESPN Bet, Tennessee is a 7.5 point favorite. According to the matchup predictor, whatever that should mean, Tennessee has a 71% chance of winning this game in Norman. Now, some of the big names you're going to hear about is, of course, Tennessee's phenom, Nico. I'm not even going to give a try his last name. You have Jackson Arnold, the quarterback for Oklahoma, highly recruited guy. Dylan Sampson, the running back from Tennessee. We all know about Thornton. We know about Brew McCoy. We know about Squirrel White. And if someone's hurt and I don't know it, forgive me. We know that Tennessee played NC State a couple of weeks ago. Beat them 51-10. Their defense didn't give up 7 points. That was a pick six. Ball got tipped, got ran back. But they played nobody when they played UT Chattanooga, but they beat a bad team bad. That's my philosophy. Beat a bad team bad. They did. They played NC State, beat the trash out of them. Played Kent, beat them bad. On the other side, you have Oklahoma 3-0. They beat Temple 51-3. They beat Houston 16-12. That kind of raised some eyebrows. This past week, beat Tulane 34-19. So, interestingly enough, the coach at Houston was the coach at Tulane the past few years. I say past few years, but for a while. So it's those two teams back to back. Anyway, that's a squirrel moment for me. So the nation is watching Tennessee as they're ascending the mountain. But let's talk about the weirdness of Josh Heupel returning to Oklahoma. And then I'll talk a little more. I want to talk a little more about the game. But to me, the really interesting part is Josh Heupel, former quarterback and former coach at Oklahoma, returning to Norman after he was let go. So let me give you some some facts about Josh Heupel. Now, he did begin his career somewhere other than Oklahoma. This is for the whole transfer portal craziness, took over the world. I mean, this is back in the mid-90s. He transferred to a small, like, I don't know, community college or something. And then he ends up at Oklahoma. He was a Heisman runner-up in year 2000. He was a Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. He was an All-American, the AP Player of the Year, Walter Camp Award winner. And Josh Heupel gave Bob Stoops a national championship. They beat Florida State 13-2 in the 2001 Orange Bowl. So when you step back and you look at Josh Heupel, you go, hold on. I mean, especially if you're younger, especially if you're someone who's like 18 or 19 and you really don't know that much about Josh Heupel because, well, that was before you were born, which is weird to say. Yeah, Josh Heupel's kind of a big deal at Oklahoma. So he went into the NFL for a little bit and really didn't spend that much time there. He goes back to Oklahoma, becomes a grad assistant. And then he has a few stops here and there, and then he goes back to Oklahoma. All right. Goes back to Oklahoma, and he becomes like a co-offensive coordinator. And later on, after Heupel couldn't score a bunch of points, this is many years down the road, couldn't score any points against Clemson in the 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl. They lost to Clemson 40-6. Brent Venables was the defensive coordinator for Clemson then. They did not renew his contract. So what did he do? For one season, he goes back to Utah State, or goes to Utah State, and he's an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for one season. And then he's an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for 2 seasons at Missouri. Now, I want you to think about this. His contract wasn't renewed in 2015. And within about a 3-year period, the guy's named the head coach of UCF and did some incredible things at UCF, 12-1 in 2018. Lost in the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, the guy got them to the Fiesta Bowl. Yes, UCF. They had a 10-3 season in 19. In 2020, it was the whole COVID year, but he had a 6-4 record. Lost in some no-name bowl. And then amid all of that craziness that was with Tennessee and them hiring coaches and not hiring coaches and, no, we're not going to hire this guy. Well, they found out they were going to hire Schiano, and then all the students did what most college-age students know to do. They get upset and, protest and stuff. But it worked out. They hired Heupel. And I know a lot of people who knew Josh Heupel at the same time, or who knew of Josh Heupel being hired, and they just didn't like it. They were like, what are we doing? Just to fast forward, Josh Heupel, he was one of the things that actually worked out for Tennessee. In his first season, he went 7-6. And considering the year before they were 3-7, and considering that he's in the SEC, that was pretty good. He beat Vandy, he beat South Alabama, he beat Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, Tennessee Tech, and Bowling Green. The very next year, 2022, he has an unbelievable season, 11-2, beats Bama, beats Florida. They're throwing the goalpost into the Tennessee River. Everybody's smoking cigars up there. It's crazy. Place stunk. And then last year he went 9-4. And we know why. No offense to Joe Milton. Joe Milton is a freak athlete, but here's the thing. You have to be more than a freak athlete. You've got to be able to have really solid decision-making skills. And I think Joe Milton is an incredible athlete, probably should change positions. But anyway, they went 9-4 last year. They lost to a terrible Florida team. There's no talking that, making that go away. Got trashed by Missouri. Lost to Georgia by 28 points. But overall, they were 9-4. But they get to this year, and they knew they had Nico in the wings, ready to take over. All right. Now, let's go over to Oklahoma, because I know Brent Venables, and hallowed be his name by us Clemson fans. I say that jokingly, of course. But, I mean, Brent Venables is in Clemson lore. I mean, the guy helped win 2 national championships, was one of the main reasons we won 2 national championships in 16 and 18. And so the truth is that us Clemson fans love Brent Venables. Brent Venables has a history with Oklahoma. And let's talk about that history. There was a bit of a controversy. So Venables worked under Bob Stoops as the defensive coordinator from 1999 to 2011. All right. He had a national championship there. All right. But things got controversial in about 2012 when Stoops hired his brother, Mike Stoops, to come back to Oklahoma as the co-defensive coordinator. But things didn't, and here's the thing. Things didn't work out for Mike at Arizona. He had went to be the head coach there. It didn't work out. And a lot of people saw this as a demotion. Now, Oklahoma fans, if you're watching this and you're like, well, he didn't do this good here and there. I mean, he came to Clemson and won 2 national championships. I really don't know what to say other than that. I mean, 2 national championships, it's hard to argue with. So I can't say that Brent had the greatest time at Oklahoma before. Both, if you look at both of these coaches, in some form, they seem to have been betrayed. And that leads us to this game. Now, I know we're 11 minutes and 30 seconds in. You're like, why are you talking about this? Not really talking about the game. Because to me, everybody's going to talk about the game there. And the game, I'm getting to that now. But to me, going over these details is actually a lot of fun. Because it shows you the weird, odd, awkward feelings and atmosphere that is college football. I mean, it's really weird to see Brandon Streeter on Georgia's sidelines. He played at Clemson, was a coach at Clemson for a very long time, offensive coordinator for 1 year. They fire the guy. He goes to Georgia as an analyst. I don't know what he's doing now, but I saw him on the sidelines the other night while I was watching the Kentucky-Georgia game. The offense still looked bad after he left, so, I mean, there's that. But the same thing here with Heupel and Oklahoma. And even if you want to look at it in a certain way, Brent Venables felt betrayed. So, I'm going to get to the comment section real quick before I dive. I'm going to dive into the game. Okay, so for some of you are like, dude, you didn't talk about the game, hadn't talked about the game up to this point. I'm getting there, but I do want to say some quick hellos to some people in here. Starting off, Parker Henderson. Well, hey, friend, Parker is a subscriber, and that little symbol beside his name means that he supports on a monthly basis. So, Parker Henderson, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. I'll get a strike for that I owe royalties for humming the Andrew Gold / Golden Girls intro theme song. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's good to see you, dude. I did get your text, and I meant to respond to you, but yes, South Alabama is trashing. Last I saw was trashing App State. Not to be outdone, Chase Henderson, his brother. There he is, Chase Henderson. Chase Henderson, Chase, you need to put up a picture. You need to get rid of that C. You need to put up a picture. Chase, as you can see, not only subscribes, he and his brother are great minds. They're warped, but they're great minds. They both support the channel. He has that symbol beside his name. Thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. They've been friends not only of mine, but of Bobby Durkins and the channel. Thank you for you. I really do appreciate, even though they're friends, it still really means a lot to me that they support monthly. So thank you, my friend. Get in here, say hello. Quick hello to a bunch of people. Cack Tiger, May there, got to say, seeing App State get their teeth kicked in by South Alabama makes me a bit worried about how good the offense actually is. I'm telling you this, that was my same thought, but hey. Douglas Spencer, hey Brian, how you doing? Hey, I need a haircut. I really need a haircut. My hair is starting to get to that place to where I'm looking like a dead president. Rob Ellen, Heupel is going to go all gladiator and try to get his vengeance against the Sooners. Stoopsified, Josh is a Okie. That is true. That is true. The Nature Boy. Woo! Good to see you, my friend. John Doe, 35-14, Clemson. Nice. Justin Parrott, 40-14. Clemson wins. Ole Miss Rebels win their game blowout. Tennessee wins their game. Good to hear you. Okay, let's dive into the game. All right, we're at the 15-minute mark. You know me. So let's go back over just the preliminaries of the game. Number 6, Tennessee. At number 15, Oklahoma. It's going to be Saturday night, 7:30 on ABC. Now, this Tennessee team is a 6.5. One says 7.5. One says 6.5. I'll go with 6.5 point favorite for Tennessee coming into this game. Now, Tennessee played UT Chattanooga first game. That's a warm-up game. I'm totally fine with it. Beat them 69-3. Played NC State. That game was in Charlotte. Everybody thought NC State was going to come out and play well and blah, blah, blah. Nope. Tennessee dropped their drawers on them, doo-dooed all over their hopes and dreams, 51-10. Kent State, they beat Kent State 71-0. Now, let me go, before I go any farther, I want to tell you this. You're like, Brian, are you really excited that Tennessee beat UT Chattanooga and Kent State this bad? What is my philosophy again? Beat a bad team bad. And I've seen Tennessee in the past 10 years, whether it's this coach or another coach, well, I've seen them struggle, and I've seen this with other teams. I've seen them struggle with bad teams. And if you want to prove to everyone, whether you're Tennessee or you're Oklahoma or you're Clemson or you're Alabama or whatever, if you want to prove that you're a machine, you go in, you don't play around with the bad teams, you don't give them a chance to have hope, you don't give them the opportunity to upset you and you be the laughingstock of college football and a stain on your history that you always have to hear about even if you win a national championship. No, you go in there and you show them why they don't deserve a scholarship at a place like your school because you beat them so bad. So these two massive wins over no-name teams doesn't make me go, oh, wow, Tennessee's great or something. But it does make me look at them and say, oh, they're beating a bad team bad. You got one of those things right. You played NC State. You hammered them. You didn't for one moment give them the chance to believe that they had a chance in that game. Go over to Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they're 3-0. They beat Temple 51-3. I beat a bad team bad. Now, this is where I start to become apprehensive with Oklahoma. They played Houston, and they won 16-12. If Oklahoma is where they need to be at, they should be beating Houston more than that. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the Houston game. I don't know if half of the Oklahoma team was incarcerated, or maybe they got stuck on an elevator, or if someone pulled a groin muscle and it was like several groins were pulled. I don't know. But I know that the very next week you played Tulane, and I know that they've been better over the past few years, which has been cool to watch, especially year before last when they beat Southern Cal in the Cotton Bowl. But you beat Tulane 34-19. Let's pause here. You won your games. That's great. But if you're Oklahoma and you're going into this game against a Tennessee team that has a quarterback who can sling it, you can't help but kind of tense up a little bit. Nico has lived up to it so far. Somebody gave me commented on my board a couple of weeks ago, right before the NC State game, and said, he goes out and he trashes an FCS school, and all of a sudden you're like doting on him. And I was like, have you watched his release? Have you watched the way he throws the football? Have you watched his decision making? Then he went in against NC State, played a little sloppy, and still looked good. The guy looks pretty doggone solid. And you add in Sampson. Dylan Sampson can play, and I've told you this, my brother-in-law, He graduated UT. I know a lot about UT just because him, not near as much as he knows about UT. But he told me last year, he said, I'm telling you, Dylan Sampson is a guy that everybody's overlooking because they got these other players in front of him that are talented. But I'm telling you, I think Dylan Sampson's going to be the best of them. This guy, 45 carries, 357 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Well, Brian, look at his competition. Do you know how many major D1 schools can mess up against major competition? Again. Now let's talk about Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold was a highly recruited player. And this guy's a sophomore. He's out of Denton, Texas. 6'1", 211. And he came out last week against Tulane. And he threw for 169 yards, but he turned around and rushed for 97 and 2 touchdowns. So the guy's going to run the ball on you. He's not going to just sit back and just chill out and go, hey, what are y'all doing over there? I'm going to throw the ball to you. I mean, if he has to lower his head, he will. He'll pull the ball and, tuck it and run. He's that guy you got to pay attention to. And it is, I don't want to say easy to say, but I think that it is actually, up to this point, these two teams are definitely the best two teams either one of them's played so far this season. And right now, a lot of people are saying Tennessee by 6.5. Why is it? Their offense. And that their front seven, now as far as their line, their defensive line, they're deep, y'all. When you hear about James Pierce, you hear about James Pierce all the time. And you should. James Pierce is a very talented player. The guy's unbelievable. I think if he goes to the NFL, they're going to switch his position. I don't think they'll keep him on the line. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. My mom keeps it in her baby book of times I've been wrong. Nah, that's being stupid. But the point is, James Pierce can play, but they are deep across that front four. And their linebacker play has been pretty solid. Once again, you can say UT Chattanooga. You can talk about Kent State. Okay, great. Wonderful. But they've beat bad teams bad. They beat an NC State team that was supposed to give them more of a fight. They beat them. I think they basically burned down Carter Finley Stadium that night. Nobody just knows it. And they were in Charlotte. But when you look at Oklahoma and you have that perception, you say, okay, is it true that Oklahoma's schedule up to this point, when you consider Houston and Tulane, that it's actually a better schedule? I don't know all this. I don't know the stats, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to look at this and go, hey, has Oklahoma played a tougher schedule up to this point than Tennessee? The answer is absolutely. Houston and Tulane. And then Temple versus UT Chattanooga, Kent State, and then NC State. NC State has the only other team in the ACC that has been a bigger disappointment is Florida State. Florida State and NC State, one was supposed to win the conference. The other one was a dark horse for it. Those two teams, up to this point, has been the biggest failures and disappointments in the conference. Now, I want to be careful what I say about my Clemson Tigers here, because everybody's thinking about Appalachian State and that offensive explosion. But tonight, I believe little old South Alabama, it's 1-2, is giving a beat down to Appalachian State themselves. So I'm not going to sit here and turn a blind eye to it. But if you look at this, Oklahoma has a tougher schedule than Tennessee, period. At this point, I did not say the full season. Tennessee has a much more difficult schedule. Well, no. I take that back. Let me look at this. Nope. They both have a terrible schedule because I remember it's SEC. I started misspeaking and I caught myself. I mean, they both have a terrible schedule. But I'm saying up to this point. Up to this point, did you hear me? Up to this point, Oklahoma has had the tougher schedule than Tennessee. Now, moving forward, they both have a tough schedule. I mean, it's ridiculous. Oklahoma, after Tennessee, they have Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Maine, Missouri, Alabama, and LSU. Talk about a tough one, okay? And then on Tennessee side, after this game, they have Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Georgia, UTEP, and Vanderbilt. Now, after looking at that, Oklahoma does have the tougher schedule moving forward, but they both have tough schedules. With all that ranting and rambling, I come to the point where I'm going to narrow down my prediction and tell you this. I can see myself. My hair I just need a haircut. My God, it looks awful. Maybe I'm wrong. I just see Tennessee being too much, and it goes back to their quarterback play. It goes back to Squirrel White. It goes back to Deontay Thornton. It goes back to Brew McCoy. It goes back to Dylan Sampson. It goes back to their offensive line. And that their defensive line, their front seven, has been more than good enough. That the questions in the secondary really haven't even been, had to deal with it. Now, that's where Oklahoma could come in and attack and say, hey, of course your front seven looks great. But we know your secondary is struggling, and we're going to go after your secondary. Oklahoma could very well do that. Oklahoma could step back and say, hey, you can do that to UT Chattanooga, FCS school. You can do that to Kent State. But you can't do that to us. Maybe they do. Maybe they step up and do it. But I'm just telling you, based on what I've seen from Oklahoma and what I'm seeing from Tennessee, I see Tennessee winning this game. Now, calling a score on this one's going to be kind of rough. But I just based on everything that I've seen, I see Tennessee winning this ball game somewhere to the tune of, I don't know, 27-20, somewhere in there. Now, if Oklahoma comes out and they can't stop it cold, this game could get out of hand. If Oklahoma's offense is going out there and they're laying a golden turd, you can go ahead and tack on another touchdown, maybe a field goal to that, and Tennessee wins by 17. But I think somewhere in the ballpark of 27-20, Tennessee wins this ball game. And both of these teams, considering the strength of both of their schedule, especially Oklahoma, they need this. They need these games. Because for Oklahoma, after this game, the next game is one of the easiest, Auburn. Then they have South Carolina a few weeks after that with Texas in between. But I'm going to name out the easy schools that Oklahoma has left after this game. And I'm not calling Tennessee an easy game at all. I'm just saying after this Tennessee game, they have Auburn, South Carolina, and Maine. Those are the other three. Those are three games that look easy. Everything else is number 1 Texas, number 5 Ole Miss, number 7 Missouri, and number 4 Alabama, and number 16 LSU. You tell me who wants to play that schedule. Oklahoma needs this game. Tennessee could technically drop this game and they wouldn't be fine, but they would be fine. But I'm picking Tennessee to win this ball game 27-20. And if Oklahoma cannot stop the offense, tack on another touchdown and are pointed to, and you'll see that. So let me get to the last comments here, and then I'm going to get out of here. Let me see. 904. Hey, Brian, I'll be looking forward to Louisville coming to Death Valley in a few weeks. That will be a fun game. I have no clue how good Miami is currently. Hard to tell, nothing to measure it by. It's a small sample. Miami has a lot to prove. Let me tell you right now, a lot of people are already anointing Miami as the best team in the ACC. And there's a few rants that I could start right here. But here's what I'll say, 904 Hurricane. No trash talk, just straight up college football talk. Miami has done this before in the past 15 years. They've come out, they look like they were going to be something great. Everybody's wetting their drawers. Oh, the 01 Miami Hurricanes is back. And listen, Miami has an amazing history, an unbelievable history. I think that's why a lot of people are shocked that things are the way they are, because especially if you're my age, you remember Miami when they were flipping Miami, you know? So I even started to buy into last year because Miami was just quietly winning, and it was like, whoa, this is kind of different. And then the wheels came off, and it came off due to coaching malfeasance. And I call it coaching malfeasance because it's exactly what it was. Cristobal held his middle finger up to the fundamentals of football, and the fundamentals of football got offended, said, oh, no, you don't. And Georgia Tech beat them, and I just think it did something to their psyche. But I'm with you. I am not ready to anoint Miami with anything right now. Miami just needs to prove it. They just need to go out there and prove it. And I mean, their schedule is relatively easy. So also when you consider that the ACC conference is hot garbage, it just keeps getting worse. I mean, I just mentioned that Florida State's 0-3. Everybody thought they were the front runner to potentially win the conference. You have NC State that went to the portal, got a bunch of talent, looked like they were going. Nope, forget that. They're out. That's out the door. So Miami and Clemson could potentially win a conference. It's just not that good. So you win your conference. That is what it is. But I'm just saying, there's just this terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, especially for my Tigers, but this could transcend to you as well with the Hurricanes, that you could win your conference and go to the college football playoff and get the color beat out of your jersey. And just ask Florida State. That doesn't work out well. So, I'm with you. Just Parrott, ready to see Wesco in action again with Phil Maffa. Let them score touchdowns like crazy like they did against App State. We're back. Let's see. Yes. Oh, there he is. Yes. Y'all are fine. The fact that Tennessee doesn't seem to miss Tyler Barron at all speaks volumes. Their defensive line is nasty. That is true. Had Tennessee beating Oklahoma since the bowl game, Jackson Arnold did not impress me then, and he did nothing to change my mind. Tennessee 35-17. That's very aggressive. There we go. Hey, it might happen. NC State better than any of the teams Oklahoma has played. I'm not going to say no, because I'm underwhelmed. I'm underwhelmed by all three of them. But I would just say, as a conglomerate at this point. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The schedule is about to get crazy, especially for Oklahoma after this. Have Tennessee 42-17, but I sure hope our hometown hero, Jackson Arnold, has a pretty good game. He's a great kid. Go Big Orange. Thanks, Rustastic, for that response. You know, the guy was highly recruited coming out of high school. I mean, he's a big deal. I mean, he was a big deal, and they're hoping that he is going to tear it up, especially this week will be his coming out party, because his numbers haven't been bad, but they haven't been like amazing. I don't know if he's dealing with the injury. I don't know if he's getting used to the scheme. What it may be. I don't know. Which team is better than NC State? I would say not better. I would say Tulane probably is as good as NC State. Could be wrong. I mean, right now it's just kind of like splitting hairs among mediocre teams, so it's kind of hard to explain. But I get where you're, what you're saying. All right, folks. So leave your comments below. Who do you believe is going to win the ball game? Do you think Josh Heupel comes in and drops his alma mater? I mean, has a special package just for them. You can say, oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, but it matters. It matters. On the other side, Brent Venables, the wonderful legend that is Brent Venables for Clemson. Things haven't been bad, but they haven't been good in Oklahoma. Could he be looking at the man? This is the thought here I'll leave you with. Is he looking at the man across the field, coaching another team that will be his replacement if he doesn't live up to expectations? Riddle me that, Batman. Leave it below. Hey, I hope you'll subscribe if you like what I do. Sometimes I'm always long-winded, but if you like it, I hope you'll subscribe, pass it along. And if you want to support on a monthly basis, there is a join button below the video. If you don't see it, you're probably on an iPhone. I'm just glad you're here. At least subscribe and drop me a line, tell me hello, and give me your thoughts. You take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers.